went to a family reunion hoping to fix things. Instead, we fought, burned down the house, and ruined everything. When the email came, I stared at it for a long time before opening it. The subject line read, "It's time to bring us all back together." It was from my mother, which surprised me. She wasn't the kind of person to send long messages or emotional pleas. She was more the one-word text and a voicemail type. I clicked it, half expecting something simple, maybe about someone's birthday. Instead, the message read, "Family reunion at the old farmhouse. It's been far too long since we were all in one place. Come for the weekend Friday night through Sunday morning. Love, Mom." The old farmhouse. Just seeing those words made my stomach twist. It was where my siblings and I had spent so much of our childhood, where we'd built forts in the woods and fought over who got the biggest room. It was also where our family started to fracture. Arguments in the kitchen, cold silences at the dinner table, and the shouting matches that defined our last few years there. I hadn't been back since I left for college, and I didn't think my siblings had either. But apparently, my mother thought the time had come for us to sit under the same roof again. I thought about ignoring the email. My brother, Liam, would definitely be there, and the idea of seeing him again made me feel sick. My sister, Fiona, would probably show up too, bringing her husband, Tom, who never had much to say other than thinly veiled criticisms, and who knew if my youngest sibling, Alex, would even respond. They'd been off the radar for years now, living somewhere on the West Coast last I heard. But Mom's last line stuck with me. "It's time to bring us all back together." Against my better judgment, I replied, "I'll come." Driving up the gravel road, I felt like I was moving through a memory. The farmhouse loomed ahead, its white paint faded and peeling, the shutters hanging askew. The oak tree out front still stood tall, its branches stretching like skeletal fingers toward the sky. The porch creaked under my weight as I climbed the steps, and for a moment I thought about turning back. Then the door swung open, and there was Mom, looking smaller and older than I remembered. "Margaret," she said, her face breaking into a smile. "You came." "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile of my own. She hugged me tightly, and I noticed how frail she felt, her bones pressing against me like brittle twigs. Inside, the house was the same and yet different. The same heavy furniture, the same smell of dust and old wood, but it felt emptier somehow, like the house itself knew it had been abandoned. "You're the first to arrive," Mom said, leading me to the kitchen. "Liam and Fiona are driving up together, and Alex, well, I'm hoping they'll surprise us." I nodded, though my mind was already racing. Liam and Fiona driving together. That didn't bode well. They had a knack for teaming up, making anyone else in the room feel small. And Alex. I wasn't holding my breath. Liam and Fiona arrived 2 hours later. I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel, and watched through the window as they stepped out of Liam's SUV. Fiona looked as put together as always, her hair perfectly styled, her blouse wrinkle-free. Liam looked like his usual self, broad, loud, and already laughing at one of his own jokes. When they came inside, the air shifted immediately. "Margaret," Liam said, clapping me on the back. "Still living the dream in the big city, huh? Still pretending you're king of the world?" I shot back, his grin faltered, but only for a second. Fiona hugged me in a way that felt like an obligation. "It's good to see you," she said, though her tone made it sound like a chore. The evening passed in stiff conversations and awkward silences. Mom tried to bridge the gaps, asking about everyone's lives, but the responses were clipped. Liam bragged about his promotion. Fiona talked about her kids who, thankfully, weren't here. I mentioned my recent trip abroad, which Fiona immediately spun into a comparison about how she wished she had time to travel, but being a mother was a full-time job. You know, the tension simmered just below the surface, like a pot ready to boil over. By the time Alex arrived, the sun had set, and we'd all retreated to the living room. The sound of a car pulling up startled us, and Mom jumped to her feet, her face lighting up with hope. Alex walked in, carrying a backpack and wearing a leather jacket that smelled faintly of smoke. Their hair was cropped short, and a new tattoo snaked up their arm. "Hey," they said, their voice low and tired. "Alex," Mom said, tears in her eyes. She pulled them into a hug, and for a moment, the room felt a little warmer. Then Liam stood, crossing his arms. "Nice of you to show up." Alex glared at him. "Nice of you to keep acting like a jerk." The warmth evaporated. Dinner was an unmitigated disaster. Mom had cooked a roast, mashed potatoes, and green beans, her attempt at recreating a meal we'd all loved as kids. But nothing could save the evening from the weight of our collective history. "Do you ever call Mom?" Liam asked Alex, his tone sharp. "Or is that too much effort? Do you ever shut up?" Alex shot back, stabbing their fork into a piece of roast. "Stop it," Mom said softly. But no one was listening. Fiona chimed in, her voice icy. "Alex, it's not unreasonable to expect you to check in once in a while. We all have responsibilities, you know. Like you're the poster child for responsibility," Alex snapped. "Don't bring me into this," Fiona said, her cheeks flushing. "Too late," I muttered under my breath, earning a sharp look from Fiona. The argument spiraled, dragging up old wounds and fresh insults. By the time the plates were cleared, no one was speaking to each other, and Mom looked like she might cry. That night, the house was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. I lay awake in my old room, staring at the ceiling, the voices from dinner replaying in my head. The walls seemed thinner than they used to be, and I could hear muffled voices down the hall. Someone was arguing again. Liam, I guessed, from the tone. His voice rose, then fell, then rose again. I heard a door slam, followed by silence. I wanted to believe it would get better in the morning, that the worst was behind us. But I was wrong. By Sunday morning, the tension in the house was suffocating. Conversations had become little more than clipped exchanges and loaded silences. Breakfast was a mess. Alex rolled out of bed late, hungover, and muttered something under their breath about Liam snoring. Fiona, still fuming from the night before, snapped, "At least he stays sober." It was like lighting a match. "Excuse me," Alex said, their fork clattering to the table. "You heard me," Fiona shot back. "You show up late, drink yourself into oblivion, and act like you're the victim. It's pathetic, right? Because you're so perfect," Alex said, standing up. "Tell me, Fiona, how's your perfect life holding up? Does Tom still hate your guts, or is he just as scared to leave?" Fiona's face went pale, her lips trembling with fury. "Don't you dare talk about my marriage. At least I have one. You can't even hold down a relationship." "Maybe because I'm not as desperate as you," Alex yelled. "Enough," Mom shouted, slamming her hand on the table. But it was too late. Liam jumped in next, his voice booming. "Alex, you have no right to talk about anyone else's life. You've been a train wreck since high school, and you expect us to keep cleaning up after you." "Clean up after me?" Alex laughed bitterly. "You'll want to talk. How's that failing business of yours? Still pretending you're the golden boy while you bleed Mom dry." "I've never taken a dime from Mom," Liam roared. "Really?" Alex spat. "Then who's been paying your bills while you play Mr. Big Shot?" Mom tried to interject, her voice shaky. "That's enough, all of you. This isn't what But Fiona cut her off. "Don't act innocent, Mom. You've been enabling him 4 years. And while we're at it, how much of Dad's inheritance did you burn through saving Alex from their latest disaster?" "You don't know anything about me," Alex said, stepping closer to Fiona, their fists clenched. "And I don't want to," Fiona hissed. I sat frozen, unable to stop the spiral. Then Liam turned on me. "And what about you, Margaret? You've been sitting there this whole time, acting like you're above all this. You think we don't notice how you look down on us?" "Excuse me," I said, finally snapping out of my silence. "You're no saint," Liam continued. "You cut and run the second things get tough. You left this family behind." "I left because you were impossible to be around," I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. "Because all of you made this house unbearable. Well, you came back, didn't you?" Fiona sneered. "For Mom," I said, glaring at her. "Not for any of you." Mom buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. "Stop it, please. This isn't what I wanted. I just wanted my family back." Her words should have been enough to stop us. But instead, they broke something. It all happened so fast. Liam grabbed Alex's arm as they tried to storm out, and Alex shoved him back, sending a chair clattering to the floor. Fiona was screaming for them to stop, while Mom begged for calm, her voice drowned out by the chaos. The shouting turned into shoving, and in the chaos, Liam accidentally knocked over a candle on the mantel. The flame caught on the edge of an old curtain, spreading like wildfire. Fire. Fiona screamed, grabbing a jug of water and tossing it at the flames, but it wasn't enough. "Get out," I yelled, pulling Mom toward the door. For once, everyone listened. We scrambled outside, coughing and stumbling, as the fire devoured the old wood of the farmhouse. Flames licked up the walls, smoke billowing into the sky, though we stood helpless on the lawn, watching our family home go up in flames. Mom was sobbing, her hands pressed to her face. Liam and Alex stood on opposite sides of the yard, glaring at each other, while Fiona sat on the grass, staring blankly at the inferno. By the time the fire department arrived, it was too late. The farmhouse was a blackened husk, nothing left but ashes and memories. We gave our statements to the fire chief, but no one mentioned the fight. We all knew this wasn't an accident, but none of us wanted to admit it. The ride back to town was silent. Mom stayed at my apartment that night, too shaken to speak. The others disappeared, scattering like leaves in the wind. Weeks later, I got a call from Mom. "I'm selling the land," she said. Her voice was tired, hollow. "There's nothing left for us there." I wanted to argue, to tell her not to give up, but I couldn't. The fire had destroyed more than the farmhouse. It had burned away any illusion of who we were as a family. I haven't spoken to my siblings since that weekend. Occasionally, I think about reaching out, but the scars still feel too raw. Maybe one day we'll find our way back to each other. Or maybe the farmhouse was a warning, a sign that some things are better left in the past. For now, all I know is this: we went back to where it all began, hoping to heal old wounds, and left with nothing but ashes. If you liked the video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe for more videos.